I want to make sure that when people go on my profile, it's like, boom, Vanessa Lau. And if that ever gets shared, other people are like, ah, that's a Vanessa Lau content piece. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to my channel, the best place for new coaches, content creators, and entrepreneurs. Now, first things first, I am so happy to be back in my home base, Vancouver, Canada. And as you can see, the backdrop is finally in my new office. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that this has been a long time coming, and I cannot wait to eventually share my office with you, but that will be another video. Anyways, I'm super excited for today's video. The reason why is because lately I've been thinking a lot about 2020, and I have a feeling a lot of you guys are as well. But for me specifically, I'm thinking about my social media strategy. And again, even more specifically on Instagram, because you guys know I'm the Instagram girl. That's why as I was thinking and brainstorming ways that I wanted to grow next year and things that I wanted to do differently so I could stand out and get more traffic to my page, I figured I might as well share some of the things that I'm implementing with you guys, because I have a feeling you're probably in the same boat as me, wanting to grow next year, or even just in a place where you want some pure inspiration on how to grow on social media, which is what I'm all about. That's why if you are interested in all of this, this video is going to be perfect for you. But before we dive into this video, I have some important shout outs that I want to say. So let's get started. Before we dive into this week's awesome video, we want to shout out the comment and YouTube channel of the week. Thank you so much for leaving these kind messages onto last week's video. Not only this, we also want to shout out the Instagram story and profile of the week as well. Thank you again for shouting out our videos. Now, if you're watching this and you're wondering, how can I get featured in the next video? It's very simple. Number one, you could either leave a comment below on this video, or you can take a picture of this video and share it with your audience on Instagram. Just don't forget to tag me. Now, with that out of the way, let's just dive right into this week's video. All right, so welcome back. Let's dive in. The first thing that I want to share with you guys, that's something that I'm going to be implementing a lot more next year, and I'm already implementing now, is creating shareable content. And I talk a little bit about this in this video right here, so definitely check that out so you can see the elaboration of it. But basically, I realized that with my current Instagram strategy, or at least my Instagram strategy for 2018, it was very me focused. I really was trying to get my brand out there, get people to understand what I'm all about, and that meant long form captions and a nice picture of me, yada, yada, yada. And to be honest, the reason why I was doing that a lot was because likes still mattered. And I was like, okay, well, those get the most likes. And every time I post a quote or every time I post something else, you know, it just doesn't get that many likes. But now that Instagram has removed likes, it's honestly been so freaking liberating. And I feel like I can take a lot more creative control with my account and not really care about likes. Not that I cared about them that much before, but still, we're human. I get it if you care about vanity metrics. And so that's why next year, and even starting now, I'm creating more posts that are actually going to generate more people sharing them. And so if you really think about it, people aren't really going to be sharing a photo of me. You know, they're less likely to do that. But if I post something like this, that's gonna get a lot more shares, a lot more saves, and that's kind of the KPI, or the key performance indicator, that I'm gonna be tracking for next year. How many shares is actually happening with my posts? And the reason why I'm really focused on creating these content pieces that are very share worthy is because the more people that share my content, the more traffic that I'm going to get onto my profile. And that's kind of what I want. I want people to get to know my account. I want people to get to know what I offer. So by doing that, it's going to get more eyeballs onto my page. That's why next year I'm definitely going to be focused more on creating shareable content for my audience, but also for my audiences as well. All right, so moving on to the next thing that I'm going to be implementing for 2020, and again, I've already started implementing now, is basically creating a more streamlined brand for myself. Now, if I reflect back on 2018 and 2019 when I was on Instagram, I didn't really have anything recognizably mine. So for example, I didn't have a specific font that I was using or a specific color palette that I was using. And I do want to emphasize that these things aren't the most important, but for me at my stage, I really want people to be able to see a piece of content of mine and be like, ah, that is so Vanessa Lau. And I think that's important because I want to create that brand recognition. Now, am I saying that this is important for everyone? No, not at all. This is just a personal thing that I want to implement. And this means that when I'm creating that shareable content, I'm using using my brand colors. I'm using my brand font. I'm putting my brand logo on it. I really want to create content pieces that are very recognizably mine. And I think that that's important because when you're on Instagram, people are sharing things, they're maybe copying what you're doing and everything like that. But when you are very, very streamlined in how you present yourself online and it's very consistent, then people are going to be able to recognize you and your, branding a lot better. I think that was a very long-winded answer, but basically I just want to be more streamlined. I want to make sure that when people go on my profile, it's like, boom, Vanessa Lau. And if that ever gets shared, other people are like, that's a Vanessa Lau content piece. Now, earlier on in this video, I did mention the fact that Instagram was removing likes. And some of you guys have been DMing me, asking me how I feel about it and everything like that. And I think that's interesting because I live in Canada, so the likes have been removed for a while, but since it's now hitting and being implemented in the US, it's like a new thing now. But for me, I've had some time to digest not having likes, and originally I was a little bit upset by it because I work hard to create a very cultivated community, and for that vanity metric to be taken away, it's just kind of like meh. But I got over it, and it honestly isn't that big of a deal. And if anything, I actually find it to be a lot more liberating. Even for me, ever since likes have been removed, I've started to post more like real content and not necessarily perfect curated pieces on my feed. And I'm gonna continue to do that in 2020. So basically, the next thing that I'm gonna implement is I'm gonna implement way more real and raw photos of my day-to-day life, imperfect photos of mine, not necessarily photos that are professionally taken. Now, does that mean that I'm not gonna take professionally taken photos? No, I actually really enjoy having those photo shoots and having those type of photos on hand, but I do want to implement more photos that are a little bit more authentic and not necessarily perfectly feed approved. This is a little bit contradictory considering the fact that earlier on I was talking about wanting to create more streamlined branding. Now I'm gonna give you a preview of my feed. So as you can see here, what I have planned is, yes, I have streamlined branding when it comes to the shareable content, but for everything else, it's still, my photos, whether it's professionally done or not professionally done. So when you actually look at the feed in bird's eye view, it's still going to look very polished. And again, having a polished feed isn't going to make you or break you, but it's something that I like to have personally. But anyways, all in all, what I'm trying to say is that ever since Instagram removed likes, I am going to create more content that's a little bit more relatable and not necessarily always perfectly curated. Now, speaking of perfectly curated feeds, the next thing that I'm gonna be implementing next year is I'm going to do less long form captions. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm never gonna do long form captions again. I'm going to definitely be doing long form captions because I have a lot to say, and I'm not going to let long form captions versus short form captions stop me from giving the value that I want to give. If it's going to take me 500 characters to do it, or 1,000 characters, or 5 characters to do it, I'm going to do it. But the reason why I'm putting this as my 2020 strategy is because back then I was a huge advocate for long form captions, and my entire feed is filled with long form captions. It might as well be a freaking book. Now, the reason why I was a huge advocate for it is because back then nobody was doing long form captions, or not a lot of people were. Instead, people would put a peach emoji and call it a day, and that was so not valuable. But nowadays, now that it's a trend and now that everyone is recommending to do long form captions, everyone is doing long form captions. It's not as special anymore. Obviously, don't let any rule stop you from giving the value that you want to give. But if you are put in a position where you feel like you can't put a one-liner of value because it's not going to perform if it's not long form captions, then I really highly advise you to drop that expectation for yourself, because that's what I'm dropping in 2020. I'm not going to tell myself, okay, if it's not this long, then I shouldn't post it. I have to deliver this much value in a post. I'm not going to do that anymore because I found myself confined in that box. And that's why moving into 2020, you're going to see a lot more, shorter captions from me. And that's going to be okay because that's not what my feed always needs to have. So again, if you're finding yourself feeling like you need to always do long form captions, drop that in 2020. All right, moving on to the next thing that I'm gonna be implementing more in 2020, and that is IGTV. Now, this is a long time coming. I've always wanted to experiment with IGTV, and actually a lot of you guys DM me asking me for videos about IGTV, but I'm just kind of like, well, I don't post IGTV, so how can I do a video on something that I don't really have that much experience in? And for me, I realized it was a huge disservice to a lot of people of me not being on IGTV because I am the Instagram girl, and it's kind of ironic that the Instagram girl doesn't have IGTV. So now that it's been a full year of me being on YouTube and mastering YouTube, I now feel ready to kind of dive into another type of platform vehicle, which is IGTV. Now, I don't know if I'm gonna be doing unique content on IGTV. Maybe I might be doing a lot of repurposing, which is actually something that I'm definitely implementing a lot in 2020, which is repurposing content. And if you're interested in learning about content repurposing, visit this video right here. Basically, I am going to be experimenting with IGTV more, and I'm really hoping that I can do more videos for you guys about IGTV, because that's something that I really haven't talked about a lot. And if I'm going to position myself as a resource to you guys when it comes to social media strategy on Instagram, I definitely want to challenge myself to use as many platforms as possible. And that's kind of something that you'll be seeing next year on my channel too, is me talking about other platforms other than just Instagram and just YouTube, because personally I'm going to be actually putting my fingers in more platforms come 2020, but that can be for another video. Anyways, guys, those were the things that I'm going to be personally implementing in my 2020 social media strategy for Instagram. Please comment below and let me know which one you might be implementing, things that you think are really great ideas, or even your own strategies that you might be doing next year. I'd love to hear more about it. Not only this, in the meantime, while you wait for next week's video, make sure that you also get a chance to download my blueprint right here, where I teach you how to turn your followers into clients. So if you're ever interested in starting a client-based business and you really want to learn how to master social media in a way where you can get more sales, make sure you download this blueprint. Not only this, I post a lot of videos about social media, entrepreneurship, coaching, all the likes of that. So make sure you check out these two videos that I have right here as well. As always, guys, I appreciate you. I hope you guys have a great day, a great week, and a great life, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.